Here's this week's My Boat feature.
Over the years on the show, we've talked about the importance of making sure that all of your hardware on your boat is properly bedded so there's no water penetration into the fiberglass or core. Now, you may recall a couple of years ago, we did a survey on this boat and noticed some minor water penetration into the transom because of the hardware mounting this swim platform. So this week on My Boat, we're going to take you through what's involved in the repair.
Before the real work could begin, everything had to be removed from the transom, starting outboard with the platform and all of the hardware, then moving on to the time-consuming items inboard on the transom. While Martin worked on the inside, Larry O'Rourke showed me how wet sections of the transom were reading. With all of the mechanicals removed, the tough job of removing the wet and damaged plywood began.
Well, as you can appreciate, it's going to take Martin several hours to cut the wet wood out of the transom of the Sea Ray and then grind the surface in preparation for installing new wood and fiberglassing the job over. And that's when we'll rejoin the project.
The next morning we arrived at O'Rourke Boats just as Martin was finishing up with the prep work.
Well, all the old wood's been cut out of the boat, and Martin has spent the time down below here grinding the fiberglass, preparing the surface to put the new wood in. As you can see, some of the wood that came out of the boat is quite rotten. So the next step in the process is to get the new wood ready to go into the boat.
The first step in the repair process was to cut the marine plywood to the required size. Next, they were rough sanded to clean them up and provide mechanical grip for the resin. To waterproof the marine plywood, a generous coat of polyester resin and catalyst was applied to all wood surfaces. While the resin cured, 2 sections of fiberglass mat were cut for each piece of plywood. In preparation for installation of the mat, the uncoated sides were sanded for mechanical adhesion. A generous amount of resin and hardener was applied to each piece, then the first layer of glass mat was laid in place, wetted, and rolled out. A second layer of mat was placed on each piece, and the process repeated. Before they were installed in the boat, the new glass mat was rough sanded for grip on the fiberglass side. Next, a batch of fiberglass putty and catalyst was mixed and applied to the back of each section of plywood. Inside the boat, the plywood sections were pressed into place with the fiberglass putty filling any voids and creating the bond. While Martin held the sections in place, I drove in screws through the existing hardware holes to secure the plywood until the fiberglass putty cured. Once the plywood was secured, putty was also used to bevel the edges. Back in the shop, Martin prepared narrow strips of fiberglass mat to apply to the repaired area by tearing the strips so the mat would blend into the existing fiberglass. Back in the boat, the glass was set in place and wetted out and rolled to fill any voids and release any air pockets. The final step in the transom fiberglass work was to apply matching gel coat to the repaired area. After helping the crew at O'Rourke Boats reinstall the swim platform, our part in the project was over, while they had to carry on remounting all of the systems on the transom.
Well, that's it for another My Boat project. The swim platform is rebedded and back on the Sea Ray, but we did learn a couple of things through the project here. We thought the water was penetrating through the swim platform mounting points here with all the hardware, but we also noticed some trails of water coming down to the top of the board inside, most likely coming from the light here, which we'll have to rebed, potentially the hawsers, and this handle, and they'll be rebedded as well.